Hello everyone, I am Augusto Argandoña. Welcome to my watercolor tutorial. This demonstration is one more in my series of beach images and how to paint a beach with watercolors. It is going to be a tropical type beach with some coconut palm trees in the sand, and I'm going to put a hammock in between two of the palm trees. As always, I paint on 140-pound cold press paper. We use a number of varieties of pigments, and flat brushes and some round brushes. But as you've probably seen in my other videos, I preferred my flat brushes. So let's get to the fun part of this demonstration, and that is the painting. I'm going to start starting by adding some water to the sky area, and just quite a bit of water. This is going to be a fairly soft sky. I'm going to just above the horizon line, and that's enough. So now I'm going to use a HAMMOCK brush, and I'm going to mix some manganese blue and cobalt blue. Quite a bit of that. And start adding the color of the sky. Mostly it's going to be blue. I'm going to just leave the white of the paper for the clouds. Sometimes I like to paint just quickly like this. Other times I like to paint some gray clouds too, but this time we just want to portray a fairly sunny image, so I'm just going to do this like that. I'm going to add more of the cobalt blue to the sky area, like that. Bring some down here towards the horizon, but not too much. Most of the horizon area is going to be almost white. I'm going to add a little bit of color there, like that. Like that. And I'm going to bring a little bit more cobalt into this corner, like that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the sky. I'm going to let that dry. And while that is drying, I will add some water to the sand area. And I'm going to start adding some of the colors of the sand, which the sand's going to be primarily white, but I will add some color, a little bit of color to it, just to give it a little bit more interest add a little bit more interest to the sand. And I'm also going to have the water line a little bit of an angle, so I don't end up with the same parallel to the horizon. And so I'm adding a little bit of water to the sand area, not too much, primarily just getting the paper damp, not wet. And I'm going to use my other flat brush. I'm going to bring in some brown matter and ultramarine blue. Make a nice gray. A nice gray color, and just add a few touches of that here and there, like that. Just quickly add a little bit of color, but not obliterate all the nice white also. I'm also going to bring in some cobalt blue into that area, mainly in this area. There we are. That's the best. That's the color that I've been wanting to get. And I'm gonna bring that sand starting over here. Like that. A little bit more of the blue, perhaps some over here. There. Okay, so that's enough for the sand for now. But before it dries, I'm going to also add just a touch of a small touch of burnt sienna in some of these areas. There we are. That's what I wanted to get. A little warmth, give it a little warmth color to the sand. There, just enough. I think I'm going to eliminate that little line there. That's it. That's it. Okay. And also bring some of this white a little bit more into that area. Kind of blend it like that. There we are. So that I don't end up with a lot of bleeding here, I'm going to remove some of the moisture from the horizon area with this paper towel. There, like that. Okay. So now I'm going to wait a little bit for this sky area to dry. My sand is also kind of wet, so while that is, while I'm waiting for that, both areas to dry, I think I'm going to see if I can get my hair dryer here. Well, I can't use my hair dryer, unfortunately. So I'm going to just wait a little longer. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to explain something about the way these palm trees are going to be. Coconut palm trees are very beautiful palm trees, and the fronds are, some are straight and some are curved. When they are at the beach, there's always some type of breeze or wind, so the fronds will be should be painted accordingly, not making look stiff. They should be painted so that they are waving in the breeze, and that's how you're gonna see me paint the fronds in this palm trees. I'm going to use a combination of greens, warm greens and cool greens. So there's also going to be some yellows, some oranges, and some browns, because nobody takes care of them at the beach. They're not like palm trees in a garden, so they're not trimmed. So I'm going to see how wet this is. It's still fairly wet. So. And this is almost dry, so I'm going to try to start painting the palm trees. I'm going to use the same colors that I used for the sand, ultramarine and brown matter, and start doing some of the, this is a good time to do that. I'm going to start doing the trunks for the palm trees. That. A little bit more of the ultramarine in some areas. Like that. Also going to bring some sepia. Then we'll have the light coming from the right. So I'm going to start darkening the left side of this trunk like that. I'm going to do the rest of the trunks this way. Like that. Give a little bit of a white edge to that trunk of that palm tree that's on the front. Bring a little bit of the sepia here too. Like that. Then we go to these other ones. Bring it all the way down like that. A little bit more of the glue. Yeah, this is beginning to dry nicely. So I'm going to a little bit more carefully do these trunks of the palm trees. Same thing over here. This is dry, so like that. A bit more of sepia. Give me the darker gray. There. My sky is still kind of damp, so see, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit for that. Yeah. And I think while I'm doing that, this is almost dry, so I'm gonna do the hammock. And for that, I'm going to use some fairly burnt umber, quite a bit of burnt umber, a little bit of sepia, and I'm going to think we're going to do the hammock in red. There we are. There we are. Nice hammock. A little bit of some of the tie-ins like that. There. Paper's still kind of wet there. But before I do anything else, I'm going to start doing the water. I'll bring some of the colors of the Gulf into the water, kind of this aquamarine color, like this. There we are. Leave a little bit of white close to the sand to show where the waves are breaking into the shore. There. A little bit more on this other side. Go across like that. And we'll remove some of that there. darker, a little bit more towards the green colors, because the waters in the Gulf this time of the year are really beautiful. Some of the white crests there. And what I did is mix some raw sienna with this cobalt teal. So I'm going to do a little bit more of the cobalt teal here too. Like that. Bring some of that raw sienna here too. There. And now before all of that dries, I'm going to bring in some ultramarine to the horizon. Like that. It's always kind of dark towards the horizon. And while I have the color in my brush, I'm going to add a few strokes here and there, just to give the water a little bit of a variety. Like that. There. So the water is done. Now this my sky is still kind of damp, so I'm going to wait a little longer. But while I'm waiting, I'm going to tidy up those tree trunks, the palm trees, the trunks for the palm trees. I'm going to use some sepia and bring some of that color, darker color, with a little bit of texture into the one side of the trunk. And do a little bit of darker colors over here towards where the roots are beginning to show a little bit of the sun. There, like that. Get some ultramarine mixed into that, and do the same thing on this side. Like this. I'm going to do this way. And like that. Same thing over here. Like that. And over here too. There, just a little darker area to that trunks. Now I'll take my smaller round flat brush and make this a little bit more straight, tidying up those trunks like that. This will clean my brush and remove some of this gray that's on this side of the trunk. Like that. That's the way to clean that. Same thing over here. There. Still kind of wet. Now it's kind of dry now, so I'm going to take a smaller round brush and do some of the dry cuttings or think areas that where the palms, the fronds have fallen from the the rest of the tree, and they leave this kind of brownish residues of leftovers like that. So I'm doing the same thing over here. They don't look too tidy. That's the way they should be, because they're just all over the place. There. All right. So now I'm going to take my larger round brush and start doing the fun part of the painting, of the palms. So I'm going to start doing like something like this, the beginning of the fronds. I'm going to do a little bit more. Bring another color to this for the greens. I'm going to use permanent sap green for some of those areas. Like that. I'm going to get a smaller brush and get some of the colors and the way that these fronds look like this. Okay, so now I'm going to take pick up some undersea green, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and start doing some of the fronds. Now these are blowing in the breeze, so we'll do it like this. I think I'm going to change the brushes to a smaller brown brush. Yeah, this would be better. Get some yellows in it too. Like that. There we go. Also some browns, some of the burnt sienna. Some of these fronds are kind of dry. Go back to the greens, bring some of the colors into it. Remember these palms are blowing in the breeze here, so that's the way to do it. I think I'm going to sit down to have a little bit more control. I was standing up, so I'm going to sit down now. Like that. Let's keep doing the same way. The center portion is pretty dense. More of the details towards the perimeters of the palms. Like that. And get different greens. That few much darker greens and much duller greens in some areas. I'm going to do a little bit more over here. Like that. Like I said, these are blowing in the breeze, so don't try to do them, don't paint them, don't try to paint them delicately. Like that. Then we go on the other side and do the same thing. Like that. Bring some orange into it too. Do something like this. We'll continue doing those fronts in different directions and blown into different patterns like this. They're all over the place. Like that. Bring some cool greens, some warm greens. Start adding some of my other brush. Like that, with some a few more patterns of those fronts. Get some darker, really dark greens in some areas. Keep making look like they're blowing in the breeze. Like that. Bring a little bit of yellow into it. Give it a little bit more color. Yeah. They're very colorful. The greens vary considerably. I'm going to start adding some much darker greens now, especially over here. There. keep adding the varieties of greens, especially the darker greens. Like that. And I'm doing this pretty much with a dry brush now. And moving my hand with very decisive strokes. Don't try to stay in one area too long. These things are moving in the breeze, so you have to do that way. A little bit more water in my brush. A little bit more very dark green in the middle. Like that. Okay, so the palm trees are pretty much done. I'm going to add one more color to give it just a little bit of a different dimension to it. Make them look a little bit warmer looking. This is quinacridone gold deep. I'm using kind of sparingly, not too much, but just give it a little bit more of a warm feel to some of those fronds. There we are. Now that my paper is pretty much dry, I'm going to do a little bit more on those palm trunks where the roots start coming out of, kind of being exposed a little bit, like that. And do some of those dry sections, give a little bit more texture and color. There, like that. A little bit darker on one side. And the palm trees are pretty much done. So now I'm going to take my flat brush, and my sand is dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of water over here, kind of moisten the paper a little bit, get some of the color that I had initially for the sand, and then make it much darker with ultramarine on that brown matter, some cobalt blue, and now we do the shadows of these palm trees. Like that. Bring some cerulean blue into it. Give it another dimension to this gray. A little bit of a brown sienna to it too. A little bit different color. More of the brown matter and the ultramarine. Like that. Combine those two colors. Make this kind of soft. There we are. And lastly, I'm going to take some cobalt blue, some clean cobalt blue, and add a little bit more of that blue into these areas. There. A little bit more ultramarine blue to this area over here. Add a little bit of that into the trunks. Give it a little bit of color, a little bit more color rather, like that. And other than adding some seagulls, a little bit sepia and ultramarine. Like that. Then the painting is done. So now I think I'm going to add a little bit more color to that hammock, a little bit more red. There we are. And the painting is done. So I'm going to remove this tape. And you can see how this looks. This tape is kind of sticky, so please bear with me. There. And over here. And I'm going to put this on a different color background so you will be able to appreciate this a little bit more. And there it is. I'm going to minimize this so you can see a little bit more. There. I'm going to straighten it up. And there it is. A day at the beach, relaxing on the hammock. Thank you very much for watching my demo. You can see my other paintings in my website, aafinearts.com. That's www.aafinearts.com. Arts with an S at the end. Thank you very much. Until next time.